There are many different ways to garden, which is one of the things I like the most about gardening, which is that it doesn't matter what your situation is or what resources you have available, there's a gardening technique that will be perfect for you. And there's no one all fix all solution. Everyone has their technique that works best under their circumstances. So far on this channel, I've shown you how to grow in containers, how to grow in a raised bed, how to make your own raised bed. I've shown you how to grow in ground, and even how to grow using a hanging PVC planter that we made right here on this channel. But in this video, I'm going to show you an entirely new gardening technique, which is called the no-dig garden. Hello everyone, thank you all so much for joining in. This is Dylan from the Trinidad Gardener channel, and I'm super excited about this video because we're going to be doing a gardening technique that I'm actually trying for the very first time, which is called the no-dig or the no-till gardening. And I said, you know what, it's something that I want to try for myself personally, and I think it'll be good to take you all along for the journey. And I'll let you all know how it works out. No, I don't want this video to turn into a biology lesson that puts you all to sleep, but more or less, you should just know that in your soil, there are billions and trillions of tiny, tiny creatures that are consistently working in the soil itself. And the no-dig garden allows them to control the entire fertilization and protection of your plants. They're helping your plants to grow while keeping a perfect balance in the soil. Because when you dig or when you till, as is common with normal agricultural practice, well, what we call normal agricultural practice, you destroy a lot of that soil life, and that creates an imbalance, and you find yourself in a consistent cycle of tilling because you have to till and you can't plant without tilling, and then that means the next year you have to till even more, and then you have to use more chemicals and more fertilizers because the organisms in the soil have not been able to do their job. Now, the very first thing that you'll need is just an area of land that you're not planning to use and that you can use for your no-dig garden. I'm just going to use a rake and clear away some of these leaves that we have here. Now, you could potentially leave these leaves on the ground here and they would in time break down, but I rather to just not have the leaves. I don't mind the weeds because I'm going to talk to you about that in a second. But for the most part, the leaves, I don't want to have them here because I want to use them for my compost heap. Now that we have our little piece of land here a bit cleared out with the leaves, I'm going to be leaving the weeds and the grass, and I'm going to be covering it with some cardboard. Just going to walk on the cardboard here. So there's nothing complicated with the cardboard. It's just normal cardboard that you can get free in any big grocery. And the purpose of the cardboard is really to block out any light from the weeds that are underneath here. So I don't want to have any weeds growing up through the cardboard because this cardboard is going to disintegrate over time with weathering, with the water and whatnot. So I'm just going to be leaving this cardboard right here as it is, making sure that whatever weeds are underneath here, they don't get any light, so they'll eventually die. And directly on here, I'm going to put my compost, which I'm going to talk to you all about in a second. The next step is going to be putting compost directly on the cardboard that we have here. This is wood compost from a rotted immortal tree. I recommend that you make your own compost if possible. And I'm going to be making some videos, if I haven't already, showing you how to make your own compost. I didn't have any of my own compost for this video, so this is compost that I bought $20 a bag, right? So it's a bit of an investment, not a huge investment, but if you are trying this, it is, you know, it is something that you would have to invest if you wanted to try it out. Unless, of course, you make your own, which is what I definitely recommend. Okay, so I'm going to be dunking my compost directly on top of my cardboard now. Sometimes when you buy compost, especially wood compost, I don't know if they want to cut costs, but they'll pretty much give you a chunk of wood that is not fully broken down. It is quite punky, so it's definitely on the way to being broken down. But this, I would chip this up into a lot of smaller pieces, and then just put this in my compost pile for it to break down properly. And that is, of course, in comparison to this, which, as you can see, is fully well broken down. Nothing here needs to be broken down further. All right, so this will release all of the nutrients that the tree has for me and for my plants. So now that I have my compost all on the cardboard now, I don't think I'll need this bag. I'm just going to level it over and we can already start planting inside of here. And the good thing about this is that, especially good thing about compost is that if you wanted, you could compress this down and just walk right on it. Right? Because this is not going to compact the soil the way you would think it would compact and the roots wouldn't be able to go in. Because it's compost and because there's so much organic matter here, this is just going to compress it. Of course, this is going to make the height of it a bit less. So you would think that there's less room for your roots to grow, but it's entirely fine. That's really not an issue. And if anything, because of the fact that your roots are going to be having to push a little bit harder to get into the ground here or into the soil, the compost, your roots are actually going to be stronger and your roots are going to have more anchorage to them. They're going to hold on a lot better. I find myself in a predicament here, which I'm sure no one has ever found themselves in, which is that I have more plants than I have space to plant them. So we're just going to pick and choose which ones I can actually use here. These are just some plants that I honestly didn't know what to do with them. So this is a good place to put them to use in this little experiment here. And I'll bring you all close and you'll see exactly what I have. So to start with, the space that I'm using here doesn't get full sun. So I don't want to risk using something that's super sun loving like a tomato, like a pepper for this experiment here. So I'm going to be using stuff like kale, right, which can handle some partial sunlight, some shade as well, and just maybe like 2-3 hours of direct sunlight. It's fine for kale. Same thing for Swiss chard, right? This is a Swiss chard. Everything here started from seed. This one I started from seed probably 6 weeks ago, right? And it's been overgrowing in this cup here. Next, I have a lemon cucumber, which I did not start from seed. I actually bought this plant, right? Then I have another cucumber. I think this is the, I think it's called a 6 cucumber. I'll put the name in the bottom there, right? So this one started from seed. I have some seeds that I started. One of the good things about having a small garden is that you can have more or less all your plants started in just one of these big cell seed trays. Right, so for instance, here I have this is a butter crunch lettuce, right, that we're going to be planting in. It's a bit small to transplant, but hopefully it'll be fine. Next, I'm going to be transplanting this here. This is a Pak Choy, right? Small Pak Choy. I'll probably put another Pak Choy. Have some other Pak Choy here. And then last but not least, I have some striker beans here. If you haven't had striker beans, they're really delicious. You can eat the entire pod, sort of like the entire pod and the beans inside, right? Really nice, really fast growing plants as well. I sowed these about 14 days ago and you can already see the seed has well germinated, massive taproot, really strong plant. Really excited about this. I haven't grown these from seed before, so excited about that. And in goes the kale. Covering it around, molding it up isn't as important as you may think, because when we water it in, that's going to naturally happen anyhow. Alright, so here we have our kale for our Swiss chard. If you've never had Swiss chard before, and it's not very popular yet in Trinidad, pretty much tastes like Pak Choy. Yeah, Pak Choy. Right, there we go. Swiss chard, lemon cucumber. I'm not sure if I'm going to make a trellis later on for these cucumbers. If you don't know what a trellis is, or if you haven't, you don't know how to make one, I'll put up a link to how to make your own trellis, as well as some trellis ideas for you. All right. There you go, lemon cucumber. Right, and then our regular something 6 cucumber, which I still can't remember the name of. Lettuce. Right. There we go. A bit small. to transplant, but we'll see what happens. Sometimes when they get too big, it's even worse to transplant them, so who knows. Yeah, our Pak Choy. And then the very last thing is going to be our strike bean, right? There you go. All in, just like that. We have a little no-dig garden bed here with a lot of variety, and I put in a lot of variety so that we could see which one maybe does better under these conditions. And the very last step, of course, is going to be watering in all our transplants. You could see that the compost was entirely dry, so that means that I'm going to have to give it a nice drink of water. And there you have it, a no-dig garden set up in just under 10 minutes. I really hope that you enjoyed this video, and most importantly, I hope that you learned something from this video. Let me know if you have already employed this type of gardening technique at home or on your farm, and let me know if you also intend to try this at any point in the future. And if you have any questions at all, feel free to leave a comment below. I'll be happy to get back to you. Remember to follow us on Instagram to see more content coming out of the Trinidad Gardener garden. And remember, if you know someone who could benefit from this information, share this video with them and help them to grow more organic food for themselves and their family. Remember, this has been Dylan from the Trinidad Gardener channel reminding you to get up and get growing. Take care.